Good day, and today we're going to learn about America's first literary stars, the Fireside Poets. Let's look at one of the most famous poems, that is from Snowbound by John Greenleaf Whittier. We watched the first red blaze appear, heard the sharp crackle, caught the gleam on whitewashed wall and sagging beam, until the old rude-furnished room burst flower-like into rosy bloom, while radiant with a mimic flame outside the sparkling drift became, and through the bare-boughed lilac tree our own warm hearth seemed blazing free. So what are the Fireside Poets? Well, this would be the first group of American poets to rival British poets in popularity in either country. The Fireside Poets are notable for their scholarship and for the resilience of their lines and themes throughout the succeeding generations. They also preferred conventional forms over experimentation and blank verse. And the Fireside Poets are often used in American legends and scenes of American life as their subject matter. So who would we count as the Fireside Poets? There's a bit of an argument as to how many we would include, but usually there are 4 or 5 that get included in this idea of who the Fireside Poets are. So if we were to name Fireside Poets, they would likely be Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, William Cullen Bryant, James Russell Lowell, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and John Greenleaf Whittier. Let's start with Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He was born in 1807 and died in 1882, and he composed the Song of Hiawatha, Paul Revere's Ride, and Evangeline. He's also the poet who translated Dante's Inferno from Italian into English. Next, a little bit about William Cullen Bryant. He was born in 1794 and died in 1878. His major work was composed as Thanatopsis, and he composed this as a teenager. He was also one of the founders of the Republican Party and a big supporter of Abraham Lincoln. Next is James Russell Lowell. He was born in 1819 and died in 1891. Now, he is of the prominent Boston Brahmin Lowell family, so he grew up in quite a well-to-do society. He was also very active in anti-slavery causes, especially during the 1840s and 1850s. Oliver Wendell Holmes, we have birth date and death date of 1809 to 1894. He was a poet, but first and foremost, he was a medical doctor. In fact, he invented the term anesthesia. But in his spare time, he wrote quite a bit of poetry, including composing the Old Ironsides poem, which saved the USS Constitution from the scrapyard. He's also the father of Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jr. And finally, Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote The Autocrat of the Breakfast Table. And then we have John Greenleaf Whittier. His birth date and death dates are 1807 to 1892. We just read a little bit of him at the beginning of this. He composed Snowbound. He also composed Legends of New England. And like his friends, he also was quite active in the anti-slavery movement. So what is the lasting impact of the Fireside Poets in American poetry? Well, Longfellow remained the most popular American poet for decades. When Poe criticized him, he was all but ostracized, however. Longfellow remains the only American poet to be immortalized by a bust in Westminster Abbey's Poets' Corner. So not only has Longfellow's poetry continued to influence poets here in America, but he was quite influential in British poetry as well. The Fireside Poets also took on causes in their poetry, such as the abolition of slavery, which brought the issues to the forefront in a palatable way. And through their scholarship and editorial efforts, the Fireside Poets paved the way for later Romantic writers like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and Walt Whitman. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you'd like me to go through some of the poems of the Fireside Poets, check out some of my other parts on this channel. Otherwise, let me know down in the comments which particular poems you'd like me to cover. And as always, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. Take care.